Sean Zittel here, joined with my man Ernesto Tito Mercado, one of the best prospects we still got in the game. I say still got because he's really been transitioning to the contender status at this point. But Tito, what's up, man? Getting the fight on a big card. Jaron Ennis, Bam Rodriguez headlining in Philly, and you're fighting on the card as well, man. How's it feel to be on a big card like that?
No, man, it's a surreal moment to be able to, get that type of opportunity in my Matchroom debut. I know a lot of eyes gonna be watching, and that's the perfect opportunity for me to go there and steal the night. Like I said, there's gonna be a lot of great fights, and I'm just hoping that I could be the one to outperform everybody there.
Yeah, well, you actually you're putting me on game by telling me that this is the first fight with Matchroom. My apologies, because I know you were fighting with Red Owl, and now you're with Matchroom. What made you choose Matchroom USA, and what do you think that's going to do for your career moving forward?
Yeah, this is the first fight with Matchroom. I did two fights with affiliates of the zone, so I fought in the zone twice, but it's my first Matchroom one, and no, man, I'm excited. Like I said, Matchroom, from what we've been seeing, they've been making these big fights happen, especially with Turkey by his side, and Matchroom works with everybody, man. It doesn't matter who they are. So I appreciate that they have there's some promoters who have egos and they don't. They're willing to make the best fights happen, and me wanting to fight the best, I thought that was the best route to go.
Is there when you sign with Matchroom, obviously it's just to progress forward and get the big fights. But was there a fight or two in mind that you felt became a lot more realistic upon signing with them, like Liam Paro for the IBF at 140 or anything like that?
Yeah, man, don't get me wrong. Leon Paul becoming world champion definitely uh intrigued me a lot more, knowing that Matchroom has him. But man, Matchroom, like I said, man, they make fights with don't matter what promoter. I could get any world title fight I want. It doesn't matter if it's WBC, WBO, it doesn't matter. I know they can make it happen. And that's originally why we wanted them in the first place.
Did Eddie Hearn hit you up? Is that how it went down?
Yeah, we're in talks, man, and Eddie Hearn is always trying to stack up his stable. He obviously has Shakur Stevenson now to a stable. I know he's trying to dig deep into his stable, and I think I'll make a great addition to what he wants, and hopefully, everything plans out the way we want it to. I become a big superstar for him.
Now, when I check the box reg, Tito, I see TBA, right? And TBA has fought everybody. So TBA is a very tough opponent, but is it still TBA or have you found an opponent yet for November 9th?
Yeah, we finally got an opponent, man. It was a little tough in the beginning. It's just crazy how these guys just don't want to fight. Maybe I'm gonna start carrying these guys out a little bit longer in these fights. Not trying to knock them out so quick. But these guys definitely just don't want to take risks no more. So in the beginning, it was a little difficult, but Matchroom was able to pull it off and give me the fight.
Well, yeah, hey, you touched on exactly what I was going to get into. This is your fourth fight of the year, and yet I think you've only been able to fight 7 rounds this year so far. It's either been like an early stoppage or these guys are retiring on their stools early in the fight. How has that been frustrating at all? Either because you can't get your rounds in, or maybe because you got to open up that much more and risk yourself for counters against guys that aren't really trying to engage, and just kind of talk about that, man.
Yeah, man. As far as the training aspect, everything I put into it, it's definitely frustrating when you guys when you got I have two guys that didn't come out of the corner. That was very frustrating, and I was even working on we're working on trying to carry them a little longer, break them down so that when it comes to the later rounds, I just knock them out in a devastating fashion, and for them to kind of quit while I'm in the process of that, it does bother me. It definitely does bother me. And then, like you said, man, the other topic you touched, there's a couple fights where I had to push a little bit more because these guys are just in the defensive guard, and I'm a type of fighter, man. I like to be entertaining, man, and I don't like when uh I don't want. Thankfully, I never got that comment yet, but I don't want anybody to ever say I'm boring. So unfortunately, sometimes I and I'm learning from that too. But sometimes I tend to put a little bit more pressure on myself to go over there and make this guy fight, and like you said, man, sometimes it tends to open up for counters, and I just got to be careful with that too.
Well, come to think of it, do you think the guy in the main event, Dron Ennis, he's been subject to some of the same? Like we'll say, hey, Boots, he's dominating these guys, but why is he getting hit with this shot and that shot? Do you think it's kind of for the same reasons a guy has hit you here or there in your last couple fights because they're not really trying to win or go out on their shield?
Yeah, no, man, most definitely. Sometimes, we have a lot better defense than we have, but sometimes we have to open up a little bit more, and it's more to please the fans. We could be selfish and not risk anything and not get hit, but then at the same time, man, we want to be entertaining. So, in the same scenario as Boots, I'm sure. I think his last fight, people critiquing him. He got hit a couple times.
Hmm.
Um, but man, sometimes you got to do it, man, just to entertain people and get the guy to open up. Sometimes you have to, so to win the fight. Sometimes they can make it very difficult and challenging.
Well, going back to you talking about breaking the fighters down so you could set them up for something spectacular later in the fight. So is it kind of like you feel like you're robbing me of my outcome? You're robbing me of my highlight reel, man. Go out on your shield. You know.
Yeah, yeah, no, that exactly, man. So, you know, every time the last two fights that I had, I think they both actually, yeah, my last two fights, they both quit on the stool. Um, you can see my facial expression after the fight, man. I was definitely very, annoyed and disappointed because I was like, damn, man, two times back to back too. So it's kind of annoying. Not being able to get the satisfaction that I wanted from the knockout.
What do you think it is in your arsenal that's putting even guys with a lot of fights, veterans, and making them fight in that way?
I don't know, man. I think it just, I have a lot to deal with, when you fight me. Besides my physical capabilities, I know how to box, man. I know how to turn things up. I know how to switch, and I guess it's just too much for these fighters. I've seen these guys go with, some top guys, and they're able to, hang in the fight and be competitive. But for some reason, when they step in there with me, man, they just either want to rank out or just, they want to do something. But it's never, they never want to compete with me once they start feeling the blows.
Did was anything discussed about a title fight for next year, or is that trying to speed up the process a little too quickly? Is that unrealistic, or what do you think about a realistic timeline for getting, if not a title fight, title eliminators in the top five?
No, man, it's definitely very realistic. We're there definitely talks about it. If everything goes well, it just depends too, how I come out of these fights. But I think definitely, sometime next year, man, you could definitely see me in a contention for a title eliminator or a world title fight. I think it's definitely not far to reach, especially, the type of fights that the type of fighters I've been fighting and the way I've been knocking them out. I wouldn't say never for next year.
In an ideal world where you would, it never works this way, obviously, but where you get your pick to fight anybody in the division, who would that fighter be?
For sure not Devin Haney, man. Just because I feel like he's gonna hit me with a lawsuit, double homicide or something. After I'm done fighting him. But no, man. I think probably Teofimo. But realistically, I think a fight with Paro or Hitchens, whoever wins that, will be realistically faster to make, just because I know they're both with Matchroom.
What's a more difficult style for your style, honestly, Hitchens or Paro?
Maybe I wouldn't say difficult, but I think a less crowd pleasing fight would be with Hitchens, just because I know he doesn't like to engage as much. As far as crowd pleasing, I think Hitchison wouldn't be the most ideal fight for me, but definitely a fight that I could easily win as well.
How do you deal with you mentioned you like the Tiafimo fight too. How do you deal with a good counterpuncher like that? And how comfortable are you with that kind of style?
Oh man, I'm very comfortable. Obviously, if I was a shorter fighter with short, it'll be a lot more challenging for me. But I'm a pretty big guy, so for guys to be able to, outreach me or oversize me, it's gonna be hard. So I'm definitely a very good counterpuncher. And I know how to box, so it's not really too hard, man. And I know how to use my jab. So a lot of these guys figure out too that I have a better jab once where you start snapping it with each other. So like I said, man, if that fight happens, don't be surprised that one ends in a knockout too.
So with correct me if I'm wrong, but with long arms and a good jab, um, that against a slick fighter or a counterpuncher, that allows you to kind of initiate, and then you can kind of anticipate the counter off your jab, and then kind of be first and last, like we hear a lot of trainers talk about. Is that right? Or
Yeah, man, and then also, man, you got to control the pace with that. You kind of dictate what you want to do, and if you're a really good fighter, as I say I am, I kind of dictate when I want to throw punches, when he's gonna throw punches. So it all kind of dictates everything, and being in control like that, just makes it. difficult for any fighter, whether you're a counter puncher, come forward fighter. It just makes it that much harder.
You said the Devin Haney thing, the double homicide charge. You said it so nonchalantly that it is almost like you forget how savage what you said is. So I'm taking it you don't exactly approve of his lawsuit over Ryan Garcia.
In a sense, man, I don't. I think that's just too much. We've seen other fighters like Miguel Cotto. Obviously, he got beaten up a lot worse than Devin Haney did with his fight with Margarito, and he came back and he avenged his loss. I think, man, I think you're just either better off avenging your loss, man, or just taking that L that they took away from you and just running with it, and trying to move on with your career still. I think, but most of the boxing community doesn't see Devin Haney. They see him soft for what he did, and as well as I do.
Appreciate the honesty. Are they both the bad guy though? Since Ryan didn't come in with the weight and he popped for that substance ostarine, like are they? Is it like there is no good guys in this scenario, or do you not see it? How do you see it?
As far as the steroids, man, I don't condone that. Obviously, I heard it was a billionth of a gram, and I heard the type of steroid it was. Do I feel like Ryan Garcia would have won the fight regardless? I do think so. I mean, the left hook was on point. We all know Ryan Garcia has power with the left hook. It's not since he took the steroids now he's knocking people down. We've been know that. Now, as far as the weight, man, every fighter at one point in their career does it. Mayweather done it all the time. He'll show up overweight, and it's just more of a psychological thing. And Devin Haney got paid for it. So I mean, and in that sense, there shouldn't be too much of a kind of a back and forth thing. But as far as the steroids thing, man, I think definitely it was not right of him to take it. But I think regardless, he would have won the fight.
Well, lastly, brother, before you get out of here, there's this fine line that top fighters do where you could either be looking past fighters in front of you or through fighters in front of you. Like Sugar Ray Leonard, De La Hoya, when they were young, they took every fight serious, but it was almost like they were looking through those fights and they knew inevitably they'd fight Hearns and Duran or in Oscar's case Trinidad and Chavez and these guys. Is that kind of how you are right now? Are you walking that fine line where you're looking through the opponents right now and you're already visualizing, knowing in your heart, I'm going to be fighting the Haneys, the T.O.s, the Ryans, etc.
Yeah, of course, man. Like you said, obviously they take the fights very seriously, as well as do I. Every fight's important. I can't lose no fight to a guy, especially that I shouldn't be losing to. That will derail my whole career. So every fight I take it serious. I'm very motivated, but kind of like you said, man, I'm seeing the bigger picture. I could see these fights with the Teofimos, with the Gervonta Davises, these big arenas, and I think that it's suited for me. I think my style, the personality I have, I feel like it all suits it to make big mega fights in the future with all types of fighters.
You're going to have to stay at 140 for a while for a tank fight, right? Because you go to 47, it's probably up in smoke, right?
Yeah, no, for Tank, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'll even get at 40, to be honest with you. At least without no clauses. And I don't know. I know he's very selective on who he wants to fight if he does fight at 40. He's very selective on maybe he'll fight a guy at 40, a champion with no power or something. Maybe that's more realistically, but hey, it doesn't hurt to dream of a big mega fight though sometimes. Never know.
Hey man, unfiltered but classy while doing it. Shout out, Tito. Best of luck to you and your opponent. Best of health to you and your opponent November 9th. Thanks for your time, man. We'll be watching.
I appreciate it, Sean. Thank you, man.
Thanks. Take care, guys.